Hello? Hi. So if you didn't hear me, my name is Katelyn. So Christian started off this series, which is called Made in His Likeness, Labor Leads to Love, by talking about how we're all made in the image and the likeness of God, and how we're all defined by the fact that we are children of God. And then Emily talked about labor, and how God labored for 6 days to create the world, and how because he labored so hard and because we're made in his likeness, we're also all made to labor. And then Eric talked last week about nature. And so God worked for 6 days, and then on the 7th day he rested. And because he rested, we're also made to rest. And that it's important for us all to take at least one day out of the week to rest in the presence of God, so that we can do work better throughout the week. So that brings us to tonight. Tonight I want to talk to you about love. And to be honest, when I was first writing this talk, I had a really hard time, because how in the world was I supposed to write a 14-minute talk on love? I mean, love is so big. And so when I was first thinking about love, I thought back to February 14th, when all the love-crazy people buy each other flowers and candy and freak out over going to dinner at a fancy restaurant. Or I thought about the pink and purple hearts that I drew on my notebooks when I was in middle school with practicing my signature that said, Katelyn, insert cute boy's last name here, instead of listening to my history teacher. So that's probably why I don't know a lot of history now, but you know, it's okay. So, that brings us to tonight. I don't think we're all here to hear about the love that's chocolate and candy. Obviously, love is more than just flowers and a fun night out to go to dinner on February 14th. There's something more to it. And I know you've all experienced love that's more tangible than chocolate by the people around you. So what I want you to do right now is to think about the person you love most in this world and what their love means to you. And tonight I want to share with you the person that I love most in this world, and the person that I've been able to see God's love from most in my life, both when it was easy to love and when it was hard to love. But before I do that, I want to give all of this some context. I want to bring you back to the beginning of time, to Genesis. Genesis 1:29-31 says, God also said, see, I give you every seed-bearing plant on all the earth, and every tree that has seed-bearing fruit on it to bring you food. And to all the wild animals, all the birds of the air, and all of the living creatures that crawl on the earth, I give all the green plants for food. And so it happened. God looked at everything that he had made and found it was very good. Evening came, and morning followed, the 6th day. From the very beginning of time, God loved us. He made us out of love from himself, because he himself is love. I mean, he literally gave us everything. He gave us the birds and the trees and the plants because he loved us that much. That's a lot of love, to give us everything in the entire world. But unfortunately, our love isn't always perfect. And in Genesis, a little bit later on, man fell in the Garden of Eden. And it was seen that humans can no longer love perfectly, just as God can. Yet God still loved us so much, and he still saw good in us, even though he was hurt by our sin. And so he's continued to allow man to inhabit the earth in time past. God is love. God's love is so perfect that we can never understand it, because we are imperfect humans. And the closest we can come to his love right now is by loving each other. And we can't completely comprehend his love right now because we are imperfect. But that's why we're called to love as he did right now. And to love as he loves us, because we're all made in his image and his likeness. Even when love is hard, and even when love is easy. So that's why I'm going to tell you about the person that I love the most in this world. Because I've been able to see God's love from her so much throughout my life, both when it was easy and when it was hard. And I tell you this story so that, yes, you can hear my story, but I also hope that you hear your story and the love that you've seen in your own life. So, I first met this person on June 4th, 1996, on my birthday. I called her mom, and the day I was born was one of the happiest days of her life. Yes, this is a picture from the day I was born. I was beautiful in her eyes. And as I laid in her arms, she knew that she loved me. I mean, I can't think of a love more beautiful than this love between my mom and I on this day. She knew that she loved me because I was her own daughter, her very own daughter. And once again, love was easy. Love is beautiful. I mean, I can't think of a time that I was closer to my mom than on this day, the first day that I knew her. But just as it was in the beginning, love isn't always perfect. And this easy love doesn't always last. Just as Adam and Eve were not perfect, I was not perfect. My mom quickly realized there was something wrong with me the day I was born. And just moments after I was born, the doctors quickly took me away from her, because they realized that I was born with a birth defect. And they realized that my esophagus, which, if you don't know, is the thing that connects your throat to your stomach so you can eat, my esophagus was broken and didn't connect to anything. And as a nursing major, I'm pretty sure this is not okay. I'm pretty sure it's a problem. So I had emergency surgery the day I was born to fix this problem, and was in the NICU for 9 days. But my mom couldn't come with me because she was in the hospital, and she was at a different hospital because I had been rushed to Children's Hospital in St. Louis. So she was stuck in her hospital room without me. Like, imagine how hard that was. She had just given birth to this being that she had waited 9 months to see, was so excited to see, and in an instant I was taken away from her. And she couldn't see me. That must have been pretty hard. But did that mean she didn't love me? Of course not. She still loved me very much, even though it was hard. And even though the day I was born was extremely stressful for her, she still loved my birthday. We still celebrated my birthday every year. And we still got excited about it because my birthday is cool. She was eventually released from the hospital and was able to greet me in the NICU. And a few days later, I was also released, and she was able to take me home. And love was good again. Easy again. And just like every other child, I grew up. I was a pretty good child. My mom and I were pretty close. My mom was actually one of my best friends. And I loved her a lot. She would take me to do fun things. And one of my favorite things that we would do was go to the Lake of the Ozarks, where we had a condo when I was a kid. And we would go boating and swimming and other fun things. And one of my favorite memories about the lake was when we first got there. There's a bridge that passes from the highway to get into Osage Beach. And like you can, while you're on this bridge, you can see the boats around. And so as we were passing this bridge, my brother and I would always scream, "Hi, lake! Like, we're back! We're so excited! Like, yay!" And it was so cool because you could just tell like the excitement we had. But what the cooler part was that my mom would scream with us, and she would probably scream louder than we would. And it was cool because you could see her excitement, and her excitement rubbed off on my brother and I. And that's how her love was. Like, her love was so contagious that my brother and I have never had a doubt in our mind that she loved us, because it was just so strong. And yes, we had our moments. I mean, we had our occasional fight, but other than that, we got along really well. I loved her a lot. And I didn't even really go through that awkward teenage phase where like you hate your parents, because my mom was my best friend. And yeah, I was just really lucky to have her. So we've been looking to Genesis a lot tonight for our definition of love. And in Genesis, we found that love can be very easy, but love can also be very difficult. In the midst of the easy love between my mom and I, things did get pretty difficult. About a week after I graduated high school, and about 2 months before I came to Mizzou for my freshman year, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And this is a picture of her at her benefit, or 9th benefit. It's one of my favorite pictures of us. But before I knew it, the woman I loved very much became very sick. And over about a year and a half, I slowly watched my mom suffer more and more. And it became harder and harder to love her and to care for her. I had to go home weekend after weekend to be with her, even though I want to do fun things here at Katelyn, because I just entered my freshman year. And when I went home, we could no longer do the fun things like shopping or going to the park or going for a walk, because she was just too sick and too tired. And the days that we had out were now to the doctor's office. And I hated seeing her in so much pain. And I could tell that her love was starting to change. And unfortunately, I lost my mom to cancer about 5 months ago, back in April. But even though her cancer won over her life, it did not win over our love. Because love is in both the good moments and the hard moments. And I loved her both when it was easy and when it was hard, just as she had done with me. So your story is most likely very different than mine. That's okay. Because that's the great thing about love. It's okay if your love is easy or hard, because that's what makes it so beautiful. So I've been doing a lot of talking up here. And I think it would be wrong if I didn't talk about the person who showed love the most perfect on this earth. Like I said before, God loved man perfectly. Even though we sinned, even though we could not love him back perfectly, he still loves us perfectly. Which is why he sent his son Jesus to the earth, to help us know his perfect love and to save us. And Jesus did just that. He showed us what perfect love was. He loved in both the good moments and the hard moments. I like to think of Jesus having like that really fun time with all of his friends. Think about 13 guys going to hang out together. Imagine what they talked about. Imagine what they did. Who knows what they did? But I'm sure they had a lot of fun. But while he had some pretty fun moments and great times with his friends, Jesus also had experienced the most perfect love, which was suffering for us. I'm sure it was really hard for him to think about how much he loved humans when he was being beaten and scourged and mocked. Because his most perfect love was seen most when he died on the cross. And while we can't experience fully God's perfect love here on this earth, we will one day in heaven. Because that's when we will be with him in his perfect love. That's pretty exciting. So to recap, God made man in his likeness for complete, perfect love. Adam and Eve sinned against him, and man fell. And this showed that man cannot fully love just as God can. That he continued to love us when it was easy and when it was hard. And I've realized this easy and hard love in my own life by the love I've experienced towards my mom, the love I've seen from her. Because Jesus came to the earth and died on the cross, we will one day get to experience fully the perfect love of God. And we will understand because we will be with him in his perfect love. And this is why I'm still able to love my mom, even though she's not physically here on this earth with me anymore. Because she's in Jesus' perfect love right now. And I can hope that one day I will be there with her. And until then, I can love her through Jesus right now. So I want you to think back to that person that you love most in this world. Have you experienced God's love through them? And most importantly, have you been showing them God's love? It's not going to be easy. Sometimes it might be really difficult to love someone. But this is the only way that the world will know God, is through the love that we're able to show this world. St. Teresa of Avila says, Christ has no body now but yours, no hands, no feet on earth but yours. Yours are the eyes with which he looks compassion on this world. Yours are the feet with which he walks to do good. Yours are the hands through which he blesses all the world. Yours are the hands, yours are the feet, yours are the eyes. You are his body. Christ has no body now on earth but yours. It's up to us to show this world who God is, and to show people who God created them to be, made in his likeness, to labor, to leisure, and to love. So now we're going to go into a time of reflection. You may have noticed that there's a piece of paper under your chair with a pen. And what I want you to do with this piece of paper, if you feel called, you don't have to, is to write a letter to someone that you love, or to the person that you're feeling called to love.